All right, traders, welcome to today's end of day video. This is Christian from Hart's Trade Group, and it is Monday, July 15th. This will be a quicker video for me because I'm up at Lake George vacationing with my family a little bit. So we'll keep it short and sweet, but there's definitely some interesting things that are going on in the marketplace. More rotation, I think. And when you look at what the Qs did today, which they basically finished exactly pretty close to where they opened, but down a little bit, just shows I think that the Qs are a little bit tired. They've had such a big run. I know people keep looking for trades in growth and in semis, but I think that there's been such a big move in the AI stocks. I think it's perfectly normal. Give these stocks a little bit of a breather, and they might provide another trading setup, but I would not be actively or really like heavily looking into this area right now. I saw somebody on Twitter commented back to me about, oh geez, the semis are trading so sloppy. I'm like, yeah, I mean, you can't keep going back to the well, for something that's up as much as they are. Let them come down a little bit. Be patient, and they'll set up just like we've seen Nvidia do that time and time again over the last year. But thinking that there's going to be a trade every day in the same group of stocks, to me, is not the best recipe in the world for trading profits. Risk disclaimer in front of you. Everything that we're going through is for information purposes only, not giving any advice or recommendations. Please read the full risk disclaimer there. So, that's one of the stories of the day. The other story is, what's been happening in the small caps. And if we look at what happened today, which was another big outperformance day for IWM. Remember, I think the last public video that I gave, and I talked a little bit about this in our member video, but just talking about how that I thought IWM could run, a little bit more, but I think it's eventually going to, the momentum is going to die down a little bit. And notice we have now gotten overbought. We have taken out one of these upside VPOC. Now there's another one up here, which is another about 3% away, but my feeling is that that IWM is going to consolidate here. But of course, it doesn't have to. Remember, whenever we get to one of these version point of controls, and I can show you where this is from, it's from a long ways away. But it is an area that's going to be a battle between sellers and new buyers, and that's why it's a battleground. And often in these battlegrounds, there ends up being like a tie, or that the overhead sellers are just kind of waiting there. And so I think that's what we hit for today for IWM. So I think if you've been long IWM, this is a great place to take some profits, right? And again, this is kind of more in the short term, but I think that we will see some consolidation here. Let me go to the rest of the indices. I talked about the Qs, but I might as well bring up the chart here, and I want to focus back in. Right, the Qs very different than what the S&P looked like to start the week, and I'll as soon as I can, yeah. So we're kind of right at this 5-period moving average, a similar looking wick to this candle that we saw on Friday. It just looked like that there's more sellers right now, and there's folks that are willing to kind of get at us at some of the overcrowded areas of the market and kind of move back in. But here's what I'm referring to. Notice that we got to the top of value and got rejected there. So these I tweet, not only as I tweet these levels, but I send these levels out in Substack. You could log on to our Substack, and I send these out every day around 8:30, and I talk about just levels to watch, right? And it's really like important, like even if you're obviously trading single name stocks and you're not trading the indices, it's important to know where there's resistance. And we went right into that resistance today. And that was a great place to take some targets and take some trades off, right? If you're trading kind of in the short term, right? Long term stuff, it may not matter to you, but it does even help to know where you should start a trade versus where you should kind of hold off and be a little bit more patient, right? And that's what happened in the Qs today. S&P, which I'll come back to. Oh, we actually didn't go over S&P, but notice how this started. We'll wait for it here for the 1-hour chart to pop up. But notice how this started above the value area rather than inside. So you've got some shorter, that just tells me that right now the Qs are a little bit more they're weaker shorter term for now. And again, I think once we get through the big earnings reports, that might change. But I think if your favorite names to trade are the Magnificent Seven names, I would think that you would want the consolidation. You don't, in my opinion, but some people they don't think like me, and that's fine. But I don't think that you want to see like the huge run up into all these names that are going to report earnings. I think that's setting yourself up for major disappointment. So I think it's better that they consolidate now. We already went over IWM, very strong. Let's talk about, a couple of sectors that really I thought did very well today. Just continuation in the financials. Look at XLF. So again, you could go through some of these sectors and realize that there are hotter spots right now than big tech, right? And that's kind of what I'm in a couple names in this space. I actually am still long Goldman Sachs, which had a good day today. It closed right around the highs of the trading session today. I got long. This is always such a tough name to bring up here. We got long Berkshire Hathaway last week in the trading room. This was just a very good looking setup, and I added this trade on Thursday, and look at this thing extend higher. So I did take another profit target in Berkshire, but I just love the tight price action like this. Really nice. You could draw trend lines here too if you need to kind of see it a little bit clearer, but that's a real nice break to highs. And I did buy a little bit. I did buy some JP Morgan today too. JP Morgan had good earnings. I always joke around because I always think Jamie Dimon comes on and starts crying. Jamie's crying, and it brings the stock down. Otherwise, it's a strong stock and it reports good earnings. But you just have to be careful of crying Jamie to make sure he doesn't bring down the stock. But it didn't close on the highs today. Kind of hesitated there, but overall, I think this is a good looking chart as well. So that's the financials. I want to talk a little bit about energy. This is a chart that I shared with you guys. So CL crude futures. Make sure that this is, but we noticed that crude had been going up over the past couple weeks, and energy stocks were not. So this comes, we got really clear to me when we looked at the weekly chart and we looked at where energy stocks versus crude had really been underperforming, but into some support. And I really like these trading view charts where you can see basically a value area. So you could see a support level, you could see a resistance level. And I kind of hung in there for a while because I was a little bit early with XLE. And I kind of just said, it even went down on me a little bit, over the last let's bring up the correct chart here in XLE. Looks like it did not close on the highs today. So I'm looking for that blue line to be taken out, and that's where I'll take my last target. But I think I got long in here, and it went a little bit lower on me. But I just thought that this wasn't going to break down, and it had a nice movement higher. So some good stocks in this group, right? Look at what Fang did today. Again, didn't close on the absolute highs, but I mentioned this kind of looks like a bit of a cup and handle. Here's your cup. Here's your handle, and maybe this will start to accelerate to the upside. A couple other names that have been good in the past in energy. Weatherford made a nice move. I know people used to really pay attention to this TDW. That made a nice move, but so on and so forth. A lot of strong energy names. And then also the industrials looked pretty good to me today too. This made a nice move. All right, and and took out a VPOC up here, right? So interesting there. And then maybe the last group I'll talk about is Bitcoin. Let's bring up Bitcoin futures. Unfortunately, like I don't like to talk about politics in these videos. I don't like to talk about politics in the trading room, but politics do come into play, especially when you have an election around the corner. And Trump picked JD Vance, which I believe he's very bullish Bitcoin. So look at Bitcoin making a big move, and this is how Bitcoin trades sometimes. It makes a lot of moves in the over the weekend, and then it has some continuation. but I've been long hood. I tweeted out this chart for earlier today. That's a nice, really nice move. Hood was really bottled up here. Another financial, but is a bit more exposure to crypto. I know a lot of people were talking about the move in MSTR. We've got a nice level for you to watch here in this MSTR, which announced a 10-for-1 stock split last week, right around that 1600 level. That's the top of the July value area. So it did close above there, but the way that the stock moves, I would still be paying attention to that 1600 and watch for some follow through in that name. All right, and then Mara made it all the way to almost this virgin point of control. These names had really big moves today. There's a VPOC up here around 2546. All right, so that's it for now. A couple other names that I've been trafficking in. This FTAI was able to take another profit target on this today. I got involved on the pullback into support. Just have to wait for it. Perfect, bounce off the top of the value area here, and I got long on this day, and that's been making one heck of a move here. A couple names that I mentioned JP Morgan already. I'll mention this one as well, Affirm. Look at the weekly chart in Affirm. Right, so this had a nice day today. I did take some profits in Affirm today because last time I traded Affirm, it didn't go well for me. So I'm happy to kind of lock in some. But look at the weekly chart here. Right, this has had a nice move. All of this move back from 48 bucks down to 28. Right, that's a big percentage move. And now it looks like it's kind of the RSI is trying to turn up here. It's got some work to do, and that's why I took some profit targets. This way I can get back involved if it kind of retraces this. But the bullish 80% rule is in effect for a move to 33.12, and I may just take the trade off there. But that was a nice trade to catch this morning. All right, guys, that is it. Again, the focus is going to, we've got retail sales tomorrow, but the focus is really going to move, I think, towards earnings. And my opinion is, and why I took off a couple trades today, is because I think it's harder to it's harder to swing trade during earnings season. It's just something that I've realized over time. But so trying to dial down, positions and position sizes, I think is important. Here's how our watch lists put together this watch list for members every Sunday. We got off to a really good looking start in some of these names. The CORZ, it's a great reminder to make sure that you're sizing your trades appropriately, because the ATR for this thing moves, it's an $11 stock and it moves about 80, 90 cents a day, right? That's a big move. So if you're trafficking in some of the stuff for the ASTS, you just have to position appropriately for these things. Like you can't take a big of a trade in this, something like JP Morgan. You'll get run over if that happens, if you're taking the same type of position. So you have to adjust it for volatility. ATR is a good way to do that. You could take a look at that and divide it by the stock price, right? And that's how much the stock, figure out that's how much the stock moves a day. And that should help you a little bit determine your position size. All right, guys, have a great, thanks for watching the video. If you could like, retweet on YouTube, I'd appreciate it. And have a great night, everybody.